Thanks for joining us.
Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community.
Welcome to the podcast.
You are now tuned in to this episode of our podcast. Today we are going to interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in our field. And now, please welcome your host.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Zev Brenner. You know, there are Holocaust films and there are Holocaust films, and there's some that really are impressive and make a distinction and really celebrate life, even though dealing with the Holocaust. Our guest is an acclaimed director, producer, writer known for his versatile storytelling for both film and television. Sean McNamara. His movies include Soul Surfer, The Miracle Season, the drama Reagan, but you also can see his experience, his direction of different shows on Disney and Nickelodeon. But we invited him here because one of his masterpieces called Bau, Artist in War, deals with a Holocaust survivor who became what's been called the Walt Disney of Israel. Sean, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Zev. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I know this film, Bau, Artist in War, I think you mentioned the fact that this is a life-changing, it was something which was one of the most important films you ever made, and you've made quite a few over the course of time.
Well, it is, and I've always tried to make inspirational films like the few that you mentioned. But as I get better at it and I find more important stories that need to be told, I always look for stories that. When I grew up, it was Chicken Soup for the Soul. I was like, I like to read those quick little chapters, and it made me feel good. It made me cry. It made me laugh. And when I was given the script to Bau, Artist at War, I could not imagine finding the love of your life in a Holocaust concentration camp in Plaszow. And then when I found out that Bau was an artist, I was like, okay, that's incredible. And I went to his office, his art gallery, which is also his office in Tel Aviv, and just all over every single wall is all of his art. And there's the portion that he did while he was in the concentration camp, but he's an artist, just everything came out of him. He had political humor, he did oils, he did watercolors, and he did charcoal drawings. Like when he was in the camp, he had to hide them, and he did them on like playing cards. He did everything, just art poured out of him, and it was just such an inspiration to me. And I consider myself not an artist, but I get to work with all the artists who make feature films.
You are an artist. You're a motion picture and television artist.
Right, but I guess I always say I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. I get to work with the really talented people, and then I get to just kind of pull them into a movie. But his story is just extraordinary.
No, I've interviewed his daughters, and it is an amazing story how he survived the Holocaust. He defied the Nazis, married his wife, and came to Israel. And he really brought animation and art to Israel. So he's considered the Walt Disney of Israel. But how did you get introduced to him? You do so many different kinds of films. How did you, I guess this is your first Holocaust film, am I correct?
It is. I have, with people you meet, they say, hey, Sean does these types of films, inspirational movies. And somehow they got me to Deborah Schmieriknik, who wrote a screenplay. And I read the screenplay, and I knew right away this was incredible. It just made me laugh. It made me cry. And I'm going, I can't believe I'm laughing while I'm reading a Holocaust movie. But it was done with such honor, and the humor. I mean, he would be kind of like a Robin Williams today that could be funny and inappropriate, but at the same time bring joy to thousands. So when you read a real character like that, and plus, I love the big Marvel movies. I love going to all types of movies, but at a certain point you get tired of these movies where a squirrel is the protagonist, or and you want real people who did real heroic things. And when I read that, I go, this guy's a real hero. This guy literally saved thousands of lives, he and his wife. And I go, those are the types of stories I want to make from now on. True stories about real people who make a difference in the world.
No, he certainly was. It was different. Now, 2019, when you were first introduced to this concept of making this movie, how long did it take to the movie? When did you finish it?
Well, here's what's interesting. I read the screenplay, and then I read his book, Dear God, Have You Ever Gone Hungry?, which the screenplay is based on. And I saw all of his artwork, his charcoal drawings were in that, and I actually used them as a part of it in the movie, which we'll get to. So at any rate, we started putting the money together, pulling the cast together. We were all in Poland and Krakow together when COVID hit. We were literally there in March of 2020, I guess. And we were in Krakow, and I had, it was going to be the most beautiful experience, and then it all just got shut down, and everybody's calling me from Los Angeles saying, get on a plane, come back. It's really bad in Italy, and it's going all over Europe. So we stopped down for 2 years, just because the world stopped down. And then I was like, we have to get this thing going or it's never going to happen. And it's very hard. What I realized when I would go to studios and go to places, they're saying nobody wants to make a Holocaust film. Nobody's interested in a Holocaust film. And I went, yeah, but this one's different. It's kind of like A Beautiful Life. And it's kind of like, well, if you saw Schindler's List, there's a couple who get married in the Plaszow Barracks. This is their story, Joseph and Rebecca Bau. And in my head, I kept saying, I have this wonderful story to tell, but not everybody was jumping up and down to do it. So luckily, I found some investors, and I found Paramount, and I found later Showbiz Direct, who's putting it out theatrically now. And they all got behind it, and we went and we made it. And, you know, we got Emil Hirsch, who's an incredible actor, and In Barlavi, who's an Israeli actress. I was unaware of her talent, but she's going to be a major star. She's just so blessed, so talented. And
there's Gal Gadot of Israel, right?
Yeah, exactly. But she's got that level of talent, and I'm blown away that I got to work with her. But that's what finally made it. So in 2023, we finally got it into production, and we made it. And what's interesting is after that, you know, making a film is one thing, cutting it together. I started testing it. It started testing well, seeing what worked, what didn't work. And finding that level of humor. It is very difficult because you want to honor the story, but he was funny. And I studied it in Schindler's List that Steven Spielberg was able to couch the humor with the tragedy. And because if you only had one, it would be very hard to watch. But when you have both to cut it, it allows you to get through a 2-hour movie in a satisfactory way, and to learn about these characters and what risk they put themselves at to save people. I mean, he forged passports. When people would pass away, they would take their names and forge them to help get the Jewish prisoners out of Plaszow and out of the country. It was amazing what he figured out how to do. And then with the end of the war, you know, he thought his wife had died. They got split up. She went to Auschwitz and he went to Schindler's factory. And then he had to find her. So it was such an intense story. I mean, it has everything in it, and it's and so far it proved very well on the festival circuit. It won all the awards that we went all over the country. So I kind of knew that it worked, and then I had to raise new money to get it out theatrically. And that's what I'm really, you know, it's funny, to make good, decent films, it has to do well in the theater for a couple, 3 weeks at the beginning. So our film comes out on September 26th, and I'm imploring people, if at all possible, you could go to the theater to see it. What it does is it starts to make a mark where other outlets have to pick it up. We don't have the biggest marketing budget, but if we, through grassroots, get people to notice it, and if they do like it, tell their friends, go to the theater, and then all of a sudden the bigger press can come in and say, okay, this is a movie worth watching.
Walk me through, what kind of monies do you have to raise? Because you're artistic, but you also have to be a fundraiser. It's like running for office almost. You got to be a talented elected official and also be a talented fundraiser too.
Well, what's interesting with feature films, you find people who want to invest in your movies when it's a subject matter that they like. So finding people for Bau Artists at War was challenging. I met a new group of people. When I did Reagan, they gave us money, but they loved Reagan. So it was like you had to find the people who like the subject matter that you're talking about. So that was, it is definitely a challenge. What was a new challenge for me, because I've raised a lot of money for films over the years to do independent films, and I always get a studio to release it because that way it comes out in a big way. It doesn't seem like a small film. I needed the prints and advertising money, and I'd never raised that before. And people couldn't wrap their heads around it. I'm saying, you know, this is the last money in and the first money out. You're in the best position. But I don't think they understood it because it wasn't the film itself. It was this other thing. And that's my big thing, is getting people back to the theaters. I don't know about you, but I love going and sitting and having the experience with an audience. There's nothing like it. And I know COVID, like, stopped it for a long time, and people are watching streaming and so forth. But there's nothing like going back to the theater with a group of people sitting around you and to feel those emotions together. I mean, it's interesting when I've been at the screenings and the end comes up, there's like a quiet that goes over the audience. And then all of a sudden, everybody just starts clapping. It's unbelievable. I watch this again and again and again, and I'm like, I don't know what it is about their story, but it just gets at the heart of people. I think to see a couple who fell in love young in their early 20s, falling in love in the worst possible conditions, and to break out to the other side and raise a family, 2 of the daughters whom you met, it gives you hope. And that was it's one of the lines in the movie is he goes, if they take hope away from us, we're lost, if they take joy away from us. So he would always crack jokes and try to keep people have a humorous element going on while the tragedy was happening around them. And from the Holocaust survivors I spoke to, they said, if you could keep your sunny disposition, if you could laugh at something, those people usually made it out.
And there is a whole controversy, should you talk about humor during the Holocaust? But the fact is, it kept a lot of people alive.
Yes, and it's understandable too, because it is so, doing the research for this, I went to Auschwitz, and it was such a weird experience because I'm sure you've been there, but on the outside, it's like Disneyland. There's thousands of buses driving up, and there's people going in, and there's like, you go through these things, and then you get inside, and it is, you literally, your body starts to change. Like my body, like literally got like in a weird silence. Like I almost froze when I would stand and walk in places. And I went, this is the story we're telling about what happened here. And it was so shocking. And this is 80 years later. And here's the weird thing. I really did think, I'm telling this tale about a story that happened 80 years ago, so it doesn't happen again. It's like a reminder. This is my thought whilst we were making it. And then October 7th happened. And then with what's going on in the world today, I'm like going, how could this, my gosh, this is exactly why films like this have to be made, because we can easily forget what horrors could happen. And to think, I really did think, this is something that happened 80 years ago. We don't really have to worry about it today. And yet here we are.
We do have to worry about it today, unfortunately.
Yeah. And that's this unbelievable lesson that I got. And that's why I think people should see this to remind themselves of how easily things can change.
Our guest is Sean McNamara, an acclaimed director, producer, writer, known for his storytelling. You can watch him on Disney, Nickelodeon, but his masterpiece, what he loves the most, is his new film, Bau, Artist of War, about a Holocaust survivor who became the Walt Disney of Israel with his art and inspiration. He saved Jews, tremendous individual. Now, you mentioned October 7th. Now, let me ask you this question. You had trouble making the film, saying, who wants to see another Holocaust film? Today, after October 7th, Hollywood is boycotting Jews or movies about Jewish themes. Could you think you can make this movie today if you had to do it today?
Boy, Zev, you bring up a really good point. I don't know. It would be much harder to do. And to be honest, which is challenging, and I'm so thankful for you letting me on your show. Obviously, we've gone out to the other broadcasters, Good Morning America, different podcasts, and they basically said, we just want to stay away from this subject matter. And you're just kind of like, wait, we need it more than ever to talk about this. And
they told you not to speak about October 7th?
They don't want to have their show have anything to do with October 7th or what's going on with the Jewish people right now. They're scared. It's not that they're anti-Semitic, I don't think. They just don't want to have that part of the controversy. And as you see, since October 7th, and even in the last, few weeks, it's getting worse. And so, especially, it's, our film comes out September 26th, and we're trying to get our actors, Emil Hirsch and Imbar Lavi, and onto TV shows, and it's getting challenging to get them on because they're nervous about it. And it's just, I'm going, you shouldn't be nervous about this. We can all agree that the Holocaust was this terrible thing. We should look at some of this to see where things can go and where the heroes are.
But you pinpointed it before, Sean, is the anti-Semitism that existed 80 years ago is alive and well today. It's not a war against Israel, it's a war against the Jewish people. It's anti-Semitism, and it's ugly anti-Semitism, but people hide it behind the anti-Israel rhetoric.
Exactly. And that is why we need films like this to give people hope.
Absolutely.
Chance. And this is why I ask anybody who's listening and watching your show, please, if you can come September 26th, because people do have to take notice when a film does well in that first weekend, because it puts it on the map in that way that the press can't avoid it. It's like they go, wow, there is a film out here that I think is decent. I'll leave it to the critics to say if it's good or not. It's
a good film, and it's an important film. And I urge everybody to watch the film and tell your family and friends, because number one, it's a uplifting film, even though it's talking about the Holocaust. But B, we have to send a message to Hollywood that we're not going to allow for Jewish films and Jewish Israeli artists or Jewish artists to be boycotted. And there is a boycott in Hollywood. And there's a boycott against Jewish authors as well. It's in all areas of society. Unfortunately, we got to be vigilant and speak out about it. I want to get personal, Sean, with you. You're Irish. Did you have exposure to the Holocaust before making this film? Tell us about yourself, even your connection to the Jewish people.
Well, it's interesting. I always go, why did this subject matter interest me? I grew up in Burbank, California, and my grandparents lived in San Diego. So every summer from September to June, I would go down to San Diego. And the family that lived next to us, the Roddens, they had 6 kids, we had 6 kids, and we all had like our own level friend. But I remember their grandma. We called her Bubba. I don't know if that was really her name, but Bubba.
Well, Bubby means grandmother in Yiddish.
Right. Okay, so it was just right, Bubby.
Bubby,
we called her Bubba.
Yeah.
And she used to ride her bike down Mission Beach. But I remember she had these numbers on her arm. And I was always like, my mom was always, well, don't ask about that, And I was like 9 or 10 at the time, and but at a certain point, I was like, Mrs. Rodden, what is this? And then she told me the story, and and it was. I was going, well, how's this possible? And Greg was my buddy. He was 1 year older than me. And we were kids. Like, we went surfing, we built totem poles, we'd sail across Mission Bay. But he was my best friend in summer, Greg Rodden. So it was like this Catholic family and this Jewish family came together. And every night we broke bread and we had barbecues out on the beach. And so it's literally my affinity. And I went to bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs with them.
I was going to ask you that, of course.
Got married, and then they came to our weddings. It was just like this family relationship that was just side by side, and they learned about Catholics, and I learned about people who were Jewish. And I remember having to carry at weddings people on their chairs, which is no easy task. I go, those songs should only last a minute, but the joy that I had with that family. So when that script came across my desk and I read it and I went, whoa, it all just went right into that. So that's how I think initially got pulled into this. And, and I stay in touch with Greg, my best buddy. He lives in San Diego, works for Fox News down there. And he is just an incredible guy that we've stayed in touch with their family. And his dad passed away at 100 years old, and his mom passed away at like 99. She was like three days shy of being 100. So I don't know. It was just our two families just loved each other very much, and we still do.
No, it's wonderful because we're seeing such hate in today. It's nice to see love. I assume this is your first Jewish-oriented film, correct?
Yes, it is. And I'm known for faith-based, faith-adjacent. But, I want to tell stories of all faiths. I mean, we're all one people. We have to learn from each other, and we have to keep that open dialogue going. And, we all want the same things. When you look at what families want and what people want, it doesn't matter what religion you are. If you can just, the human and God is the most important things in our lives. And if you look at the major religions, they all have that. And that's what I'm just trying to get across. And it's interesting. I love looking at films with people from different cultures and so forth, because it allows me to learn, it allows me to ask questions, get to know people, and to not be afraid.
No, it's so important. But this is not your last Jewish film. You have something from Leon Uris coming up, correct?
I have something from Leon Uris, but it's called Trinity, and it is the Irish Trouble. So Sean Patrick McNamara, every Irish family I went to has a copy of that book. And when I went to Ireland to start researching that, everybody had a copy of the book, but hardly anybody read it because it was like 800 pages long. But it is of the troubles in Ireland, and the potato famine and all of that stuff. And we're hopefully going to get into production of that early next year.
Now, this movie that I think you consider this to be your masterpiece. I'm referring to Bau Artists at War, which is a must-see. So it's in the theaters. it's going to have hopefully a shelf life even after the theaters. So I know there is an inspiration to get things going at the get-go. Will that be kept alive? This is a movie that could really live on and on and on because it's an important film.
Well, yes. Like you said, it comes out September 26th, nationwide, AMC, Regal, Cinemark, all the theaters. It's a wide across the country release, but it is important that people go to it. But yes, it'll follow up and being streaming on DVDs, SVOD. It'll go to all of those places. But it is, I don't know. I just think it's told in a way, and it's not me. I'm just just the director, the cameraman that pointed the camera at Joseph and Rebecca's incredible story, because without them doing what they did, we would have nothing to say. But it's their story that is so remarkable and so important in today's world to see it.
No, I urge people to see the film. It's an important film, and also to support films on Jewish content and Jewish artists as well. Our guest, Sean McNamara, is an acclaimed director, producer, writer. You can watch his films and works on Disney and Nickelodeon, but his masterpiece is Bau, Artist of War, which details the life of what's been described the Israeli Walt Disney. He saved Jews, he Holocaust survivor, and he was very inspirational. And Sean, we appreciate you being here with us. Sean Patrick, I should say, right? That's
right.
I look forward to having a continued success. But is there another Jewish-oriented, real Jewish-oriented film on the horizon?
Well, yes, we're looking at turning Rebecca's life into a miniseries, because she was just as powerful in the movement and in the resistance as he was. We focused more on Joseph in Bau, Artist at War, and now we want to focus on his wife.
Terrific. Look, when is that projected to go into production?
Right now, we are adapting the screenplay into the miniseries. So I would say 26, 27.
Terrific. Look forward to having you back and continued success. And this is your masterpiece. From what I glean, you have put a lot of passion into this particular film.
Well, I did. Like I said, I just am in love with artist and watching him, what he does. And you kept mentioning he's the Walt Disney of Israel. And I imbued that part of it into the movie because I watched his animations, back from the late 40s, early 50s and 60s. And he was so talented and so good. You have to see his art. And his way of doing humor was amazing. Like, I don't know the Hebrew word for it, but he has a woman with, it looks like bullets around their neck, but they're lipsticks, and it's a woman putting on lipstick. And there's something between the word kiss and weapon that is very similar. So he's able to take
neshek means weapon, and also could be a kiss. Okay.
Right, exactly. And it's colorful, and it's just, but it has like a twist. So it's not, you look at the art and you see it and you're like, wow, he's so incredibly intelligent and just so talented. And the daughters have a museum over in Israel, and they are Progress is moving it because it's actually the actual place where his office was, but we're trying to raise money for them to rebuild a museum elsewhere because it is so incredible to look at life through that writer's point of view, the artist's point of view, the animator's point of view. And and then he went on to become a member of the Mossad. Like, his life is so extraordinary. He saved so many lives with his forging, with his humor, and that's why he's worth checking out.
No, absolutely. I recommend the movie heavily. Just give us an idea. What kind of monies do you have to raise, let's say, whether to make this film or even for the museum?
Well, for the film, it was like between production and P&A, it was like $10 million it was having to be raised. For the museum, I'm not exactly sure. I don't think it's that much, but at least a few $1 million to move it into a more permanent site. I think that's what they would be wanting to raise. But anything that you could do for the Bau Museum in Tel Aviv would be awesome.
We should have a fundraising event for them in New York.
Let's do it.
All right, let's talk. Absolutely. No, it's a great project, and he saved lives, and it's an inspirational story. And it's not just gloom when you see the movie. There's a lot of life and inspiration, and he went on to a great career. So certainly. So I want to thank you again, Sean Patrick McNamara, for being with us. The movie is called Bau, Artist at War. See it, and tell all your friends to see it too. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Zev.
Shalom.
Shalom.
To
Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast, the pulse beat of the Jewish community.
For continuous Jewish programs, TalklineNetwork.com, or our 24-hour-a-day listen line at 641-741-0389. For past shows, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Instagram, and all major podcast platforms, or jewishpodcast.org. Thanks for listening to the TalklineNetwork.com.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.